familiar names, the cast of characters you know. I think you could name them off the top of your head if you're a regular listener to this broadcast, are among those that the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney John Durham is investigating, and Attorney General Barr has called the findings so far very troubling.
The wheels of justice do grind slowly, but this is a way of protecting the innocent and calling the guilty to account. And I think that John Durham is doing an excellent job keeping it quiet. The ultimate result here is going to be either an indictment or not an indictment. It's not going to be a statement. It's going to be you're accountable criminally and you could go to prison.
For the first time in American history, police organizations and the national security organizations were used to spy on a campaign. And there was no basis for it. And the media largely drove that. And all kinds of sensational claims were being made about the president that could have affected the election. And then later on in his administration, there were actions taken that really appear to be efforts to sabotage his campaign. And that has to be looked at. And if people want to say that I'm political because I am looking at those potential abuses of power, so be it. But that's the job of the Attorney General. I've publicly made clear that this does not involve looking at President Obama or Vice President Biden. I think the people that we're looking at are not at that level. And I think...
what names we would be familiar with?
Some of them.
We're going to know these names. So for me, I mean, I could kind of make a list of some of these names. I'm thinking about Peter Strzok. I'm thinking about Priestap, who altered the email Andy. I'm thinking about Lisa Page, Andy McCabe, potentially Jim Comey, and probably many others that we've gone through on this broadcast. But that's also unprecedented for the Attorney General to tell the American people, you're going to be familiar with these names. You've heard these names a lot.
It's up to the grand jury to decide who should be charged. But he tantalized us enough to know that it's people like those you mentioned. I think there's a whole panoply of players that are going to be involved. And the Attorney General very prudently and correctly did not identify them by name, but said, you'll know most of them.
We saw it with the IRS, and we had to basically, as the Washington Post said, gut the IRS so that this wouldn't happen to Americans again, this political targeting. Same goes for the FBI and the intelligence community. They need to have serious enough consequences so that any other agents there who even think these evil thoughts of targeting people politically will face serious consequences.
I was so relieved to hear him specifically say, my aim is not driving toward a report. There may be a report, but my aim is to drive at holding people accountable. I don't know how these individuals get away with it when you talk about direct evidence. It starts with James Comey, who bragged about intentionally leaking sensitive information for a political purpose and then bragged about abusing his power by sending a couple of agents around and skirting the White House counsel. I think about Peter Strzok, who put his political persuasion ahead of his sacred oath. I think about Andy McCabe, who carried out the instructions of Jim Comey as he was ordered. Remember, it was the insurance plan that was discussed in his office. And then I think probably open and shut. I think about Kevin Kleinschmidt. Andy mentioned him. Jordan, he falsified an email that was presented to the FISA court as evidence.
The American justice system does work if you've got good people in there, because as he said, for the first time in American history, police organizations, that's the FBI, and national security organizations, that's the CIA, were used to spy on a campaign. That is criminal conduct. They lied to courts, that is contempt of court at least, and probably perjury at worst.
I'm relieved that the Attorney General recognizes that it would be abdicating his duty to not look at this. And look, I don't care if it's Republican, Democrat, Independent. When the gears of government are used to abuse American citizens and violate their rights in this way, it is the duty of the federal law enforcement agencies to look into that and hold those accountable. I think that would be true no matter who the administration was, no matter who won the election. I was glad for the Attorney General to recognize that.
You've got an Attorney General who's going to hold someone accountable. He's not going to recuse himself on some specious cause or reason. He is going to take his office seriously, and by that, he has done exactly what he should do. It makes me feel that we are vindicating our judicial system.